Hey, ladies and gentlemen. Got me, Simchar, and
Joe, half a goose.
casting the second game of Kingston versus Surrey in the Kingston versus Surrey Varsity. As you can see, it's Dota!
Yeah!
Surprise, surprise.
So the first game obviously went very much in Kingston's favour.
Despite some early game dominance by Surrey.
Absolutely. I mean, I feel like obviously the first game very much Surrey were aiming for sort of a mid-game sort of strategy. We're really hopefully they could secure some early kills.
Dire team bad.
But sadly, it just didn't pan out well enough in the late game.
And that is going to be too loud.
Radiant team bad.
Some of the volumes. Okay.
So first ban Bristle from Surrey, and that doesn't surprise me considering how well Bristle did last time.
10 seconds remaining.
I mean, there was a certain amount of feeding going on
5
earlier.
seconds
That is
remaining.
a certain a certain point, I suppose. An Axe gone as well. I don't know. It's always fun to see Axe in a competitive game, just because he's one of those heroes that you can really just mess about with and still do well.
Yeah, and in the spin meta, I mean, would you be surprised to see Juggernaut being banned out as well?
Absolutely not. No. Yeah, how much twirling can you do in a game? Is sort of like, is
The
become a
ballerina meta.
Yeah, and I have to say it's a beautiful meta. So Troll getting picked off next, which I mean, Troll is he's not picked a massive amount, but he's a fairly versatile hero that is fairly strong.
The last couple of days, especially, he's been seeing a lot of play.
Reserve time.
So, and already digging into reserve time for simple.
Yeah, I was gonna say. I mean, second ban from Kingston, and there we go.
All three of the spin heroes out.
Yeah, the twirling is over,
No dancing for these teams.
which is such a shame because it makes for a very pretty game. So we're going to see the first pick from Surrey and Sniper. Now, you're reckoning, I mean, obviously we'll see later on, but mid or lane? Would you say position 1 or 2 for Sniper at this point?
Probably the mid. I mean, it does entirely depend on what Kingston draft up, because it's a moderately versatile pick. You can see it in any of 3 lanes if you pair it up, aggressive or mid. But otherwise,
Yeah, it's a fairly standard pick. I mean, one thing I would say about Sniper is just he is a very irritating hero, especially with the changes to headshot, where it's a slow rather than a mini stun. I mean, I think that probably makes him slightly less aggravating than once he was, but at the same time, he's a troll hero a lot of the time.
phenomenally annoying. And we're going to see a Shadow Fiend being picked up. And Sniper versus Shadow Fiend mid, that's not the worst lane for either of them. So I think we may have our mid matchup already settled.
Yeah, because obviously low base damage for both of them, but obviously Shadow Fiend, once he starts picking up those souls, will scale quite nicely.
And at the same time, Sniper can easily pick off the Shadow Fiend with damage, harass and assassinate.
Yeah, that's one of the key things that Sniper's got is far more harass than Shadow Fiend. The razors will do a lot of damage, but it's just compared to Sniper's right clicks, it's just not going to be enough, I think.
And we're going to see Tide Hunter being picked up. Almost certainly an off-lane Tide, I would have said.
Yeah, no, absolutely. But obviously, we've already got a fair amount of team fight potential there with ultimate from Tide Hunter and Shadow Fiend. That should do fairly well, and that's one thing that Kingston definitely had the last game that Surrey didn't. Is a lot more team fight. So hopefully we'll see a little bit more of that. And we've got a clockwork again.
So Mezzy back on the clockwork. This is not at all surprising.
No, I mean, he played phenomenally well the last game. I mean, obviously they still did lose, but I have to say he did a very good job. Although I feel like the first pick of Aghanims and then straight into Gem, I think that was actually a bit of a poor move.
Some poor itemization, you feel.
No, absolutely. I think maybe a Blade Mail would have been nice. Even drums, something like that, just to get him more well-rounded than Aghanims, which...
Especially against the PA previous to her getting BKB. The Blade Mail would have done so much damage, but...
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, because at the end of the day, what, you can hook every 12 seconds, then what? You arrive there, you do a bit of damage, you lock him down a bit, but as soon as he dies, it's completely over. He's gonna struggle to kill people if he goes first item mags again, especially against someone as tanky as Tide Hunter, for instance, if he's going against that.
Gonna see Spirit Breaker being banned out. Against the Sniper, makes sense.
Yeah.
You don't want the Sniper to be initiated on. And Clockwork doesn't exactly like him either.
No,
but then again, Battery Assault, you can continuously lock down.
That is true. Spirit Breaker's permabash is is always, against someone as squishy as Sniper, is always going to be a hindrance. And Silencer being banned makes sense against Sniper. Actually, no, hang on, that doesn't make sense because it's the other team. Silencer being banned. Thoughts?
I would suggest that would imply that Kingston are going for a fairly heavy teamfight oriented
10 seconds remaining.
build. We're going to be looking at. Well, I think
5 seconds
the Silencer would have ruined any
Absolutely, I mean,
hopes for a
against a
teamfight
rapid.
strategy. Yeah.
Yeah, no, I mean, the Silencer being banned is good.
Reserve
And I'd say that the picks from Kingston are fairly cautious in some ways, certainly defensive. They've picked very versatile heroes.
They're
that-
looking for late game potential more than. Tidehunter is a late game hero in that if there's one team fight in the late game where you manage to get a full refresher ravage off, that's game.
Yeah, no, absolutely, because you can turn around a game even if they're losing, substantially. You can turn around a game with a double ravage combo, and hopefully we'll see something exciting like that. Although obviously we do want Surrey to win.
Of course.
Not that we're biased, but
Not at all. Don't have someone who works for Stack TV and
absolutely not. No,
and someone who's played on the Surrey team for Dota.
that would be incredibly irresponsible to pick sides.
10 seconds
And
remaining.
the Slark ban, I mean,
5 seconds
I'm
remaining.
struggling to see why that would be such a threat here, really.
Clockwork really struggles with
Reserve
Slark.
time.
Once they're held together with Shadow Dance, Clockwork will melt.
Fair enough. I mean, I would have thought that the
Radiant
battery
team
assault would
pick.
sort of be enough to knock him down, but maybe not. I mean,
I think that was almost certainly Mezzi's
Dire team pick.
ban. Sorry, Zoom's ban. Vengeful Spirit being picked up, nice safe support in this meta.
and again versatile as well, because Vengeful Spirit can deal out a hell of a lot of damage, and obviously when she's killed, the Vengeful Aura, obviously that is going to be a big deal for if it's Sniper that kills her. Damage reduction is going to be pretty enormous there. And again, yeah, I think
10
she's not as much of a
seconds
team fight
remaining.
here necessarily as the other two. Although that said, swap into a well-positioned
5
Ravage
seconds
is
remaining.
devastating if pulled off well.
Yeah, and whether that's
Reserve
swapping in an
time.
enemy hero like the Sniper, if he's way out picking people off, a long-range swap will bring him straight into the middle of the team. Or if you swap the Tidehunter in, if the Venge gets called out.
No, absolutely. I mean, obviously you need good visibility to be able to pull that off against someone as long range as Sniper. But that said, with a bit of good warding, that's certainly foreseeable.
And yeah, so I think the Venge is just a generally solid pick, especially as you're looking at a kind of aura strat.
No,
Vengeful
absolutely.
Aura and the Shadow Fiend work quite well together.
Absolutely. I mean, you've got the obviously increased damage and the reduced armor. And I mean, yeah, again, it's sort of versatility is what we're really seeing from Kingston here. Although that said, I mean, with the first two picks from Surrey, it's hard to necessarily say what they're going to do with this.
Would you say that, possibly an Invoker for Surrey? You've got the Clockwork, so you've got Sunstrike
Radiant
potential.
team pick.
It also allows you to dominate mid lane versus the Shadow Fiend, and it gives you some more teamfight potential later on. And for the Diet, possibly, I want to say a 4-position Beastmaster, maybe, like, the attack speed aura in this may not be the worst thing.
No, absolutely, and with Sniper as well, that will combo nicely. But the thing is, if they put an Invoker into position 2, Sniper would therefore have to
10
be position
seconds
1.
remaining.
And having Sniper as your sole carry there, I mean,
5
do you reckon...
seconds
Invoker
remaining.
can go right click, but
Oh, the Invoker can, but the thing I tend to find with Invoker is that individually the player may do very well, but ultimately it's not always enough to carry the rest of the team. And I think Invoker, if you are doing well, he will accelerate the victory. But if you are losing, as much as Invoker may put up a fight with some great team fights, some great combos, it's often just not enough output.
yeah, agreed. And
The Lion pick, again, is what we saw last game. It's reliable. It's a reliable standard in support, really.
yeah, versatile, has stuns, has hexes, has a lot of damage, all the things you want in a support, really, other than mobility.
Yeah, I mean, that's sort of the only downside. But I mean, Lion, if he doesn't pick up a blink at some point, then I will be surprised because...
Or a 4-staff.
Yeah, or a 4-staff, absolutely, yeah. Oh, and a Skyrath.
Skyrath
Dire
Mage
team pick.
probably should have been banned out by Dire because Clockwork is well known for having many, many issues with Skyrath.
No, absolutely. Although that said, if Clockwork gets a Blade Mail, then Skyrath is toast.
Yeah, also, Mezzi, Zoom is well known for essentially ignoring his cogs, going, I'm going to cog someone up, and then appear somewhere, magically off to the side.
Yeah, he could have put them in cogs, break the cogs, quickly walk out and leave them to deal with the situation. But Skywrath, obviously, huge damage output, and against squishy heroes such as Sniper and Lion, that sounded good. I mean,
a long-range slow to prevent Sniper from escaping. This feels like a very strong pick.
No, absolutely, and I mean, there's a multitude of mid heroes here. I mean, I say multitude, 2 of them on Kingston anyway, at least. Shadow Fiend and Skywrath, they both do very well. Skywrath against a Sniper would be fantastic. Arcane Bolt really shuts him down. The amount of pure damage against Snipers' incredibly low health pool is fantastic.
But at the same time, Skywrath's low armor and low health pool does leave him somewhat in the breeze.
It's the battle of the glass cannons, really. And the PA pickup, obviously, so I'm assuming that'll be a position 1, the Sniper in position 2.
PA mid isn't unheard of.
No, it's true. I mean, it's sort of a roguish. It's certainly unusual. It can be done very well. But it'll be interesting to see. Although that said, against a Shadow Fiend, I'd be surprised if they put PA there, because that's just not a favourable matchup at all.
So, last game, Phantom Assassin went Battle Fury into, I think, Helm of the Dominator,
it
or
was,
at least a
Lifesteal,
Morbid
and then in Morbid Mask, and then into Soulbasher. Yeah.
Do you feel we'll be seeing a similar type of build here?
The good thing about Battle Fury last game was obviously the acceleration with farm, and then obviously massive damage into a variety of squishy heroes. Looking at these heroes, I mean, obviously Venge and Skywrath are both quite squishy, but against Tidehunter and Shadow Fiend starts off squishy, but instantly just a Scardy pickup obviously makes him far more durable. Or Satanic, absolutely. I feel like Battle Fury, purely for the farm, is always a good pickup in PA, and it's very popular.
Going to see a Lifestealer pick coming out from Kingston. I was not expecting that.
No, I was going to say that.
Especially against a Phantom Assassin.
Yeah, that's not an entirely favourable match. I mean, Lifestealer, they don't have a massive amount of magic damage that the Rage is going to be blocking, apart from obviously Lion.
And Clockwork's really good against Lifestealer, and Sniper's really good against Lifestealer. What do you feel is the rationale behind Lifestealer here?
I mean, I suppose, you know, I'm really struggling to pinpoint good reasoning for a Lifestealer, other than it's a fun hero to play. But,
I mean, yeah, as our Coco caster has pointed out,
Coco caster.
Lifestealer jumps and Tidehunter initiation, but at the same time, that's a long duration.
I mean, you do get a fair amount of burst, actually. That's true. I mean, obviously you go Infest and Ravage, burst those at the same time, along with Shadow Fiend's ultimate. That can actually do a fair amount of damage in an AoE, and Necrophos is the final pick for the Dire.
This also seems like very... Are we having internet issues here? Is my question.
Yes, it's certainly a left field choice. I'm trying to think. I mean, Necrophos, obviously the ultimate, shutting people down. Oh, that could be a thing.
Like a tri-lane of Clockwork, Lion, and we've just had it pointed out that I have failed to put open broadcast on. So thank you to one of my friends for pointing out that I'm not actually casting in client.
So have we been talking to ourselves the entire time?
No, OBS has been picking it up.
Oh, good. Production quality indeed. And obviously this is a pod game where we talk about cosmetics. Skywrath looking fantastic.
Yep, Pain on Skywrath looking very good. Early smoke being used. Ligoku. Do I have an issue here? Right, okay. Okay, so panning off the right hand side of the screen is going to be interesting. Long Live Chase on the Lifestealer, Living for Sex on the Shadow Fiend, Master on Tidehunter, and Ligoku on the Vengeful Spirit, all entering the Dire Jungle. Going to break smoke, we're going to see an initiation going on. Long Live Chase, managing to get open wounds, but blink straight away.
One thing I would say is
PA, RIP Rev on PA, Hussein on the Lion, stun coming out, under tower, a lot of damage coming out, Patty Bow on the Sniper, going to be hit by several razors. Ran playing the support Necrophos An interesting pick. And another smoke being used.
My goodness.
Um,
I feel that was a bit of a gratuitous smoke there. I mean, obviously, it's to be fair, it ensures their escape.
and one rune goes each way. Zoom managing to pick that up at bottom. I'm sorry, I'm gonna try and fix this panning problem.
I mean, one thing I would immediately say...
I may restart Dota.
No.
Apologies, guys. See you in a second.
So one thing I would immediately say is that obviously that could have gone very favourably for the Radiant team there. They had a collection of stuns and slows in the early game. That you've got open wounds, you've got Vengeful Spirit stun, the magic missile, and you've got I'm trying to think, and Tidehunter's Gush as well. Each of these things are very good at securing an earlier kill, although unfortunately that didn't pan out.
Indeed. And so we saw early game, no first blood, despite a fair amount of clash and damage.
I was going to say, and it looked like actually that the Dire, that Surrey may have got a return kill, may have turned that around in their favour against some of the low. I think Lifestealer got quite low there, but it was not to be, and still nothing of interest appears to have happened in the time that we had to stop there.
Okay, and so for Dire, I introduced RFP Rev and Ran. They're on top lane. The support Necrophos. I'm sorry, this is still going on. I don't know why it's decided that actually we're going to pan off the right hand side of the screen, but we'll have to deal with that. Living for Sex, getting 3 last hits in 3 creep waves. Pretty good for the early game. Shadow Fiend, he needs the souls.
He needs the souls to do anything, but that said, his damage is pretty high. Did he manage to pick up a mask? Did I see?
That's,
not a mask, sorry, a Wraith Band.
Wraith Band is out on there, and Pain is going to catch out the blocking ward. I'm sorry. Again, panning off screen. Long Live Chase. Now level 2. Zoom managing to pick up level 3. Obviously, he's, especially with the haste rune, he's actually going to try and rotate on mid lane, I think. Shadow Fiend backing off may make him think there's a ward there, or he may just think that, yeah, he's going to... Ooh. He does have Battery Assault, so this Shadow Fiend could be having problems.
No,
we're going to see a rotation from Master.
That is a little bit dangerous, trapping yourself in there with both Tidehunter
I think
and...
that maybe again. No, the haste rune is going to allow him to disengage. Living for is going to just back out, and Master's lost some time in the off lane, giving some space for Rev.
And whilst that was a brave play from Zoom, I wouldn't say it was a stupid one. Obviously, the haste rune really gives him a fair amount of security,
And
as we saw.
it does mean that Lifestealer's nearly caught up on levels with him, which will be interesting.
Should we open up the last hit stat and just to see how that's all going? So mid lane very much going Sniper's way. 12 denies. That is absolutely phenomenal.
Yeah, and actually I thought Shadow Fiend was doing better than he is. Living For's actually struggling a fair amount. He does have his bottle, which is needed, but at the same time...
And it's the continual shrapnel harass as well, isn't it, actually? Levelling up 3 levels in shrapnel is
if we look at the
fairly irregular.
levels, Patty, until that raise, had more experience towards his 6th level than Living For had for his 5th. So experience-wise, this mid lane is completely in Patty's favour. We're going to see a rotation, but they may have been spotted out. Patty is getting close to this edge and is going back behind tower. He knows, and yeah, the Dire ward here managed to catch him out.
Absolutely, and that's very good warding. But obviously, Venge and Scarith is a very common roaming support combo. I mean, it's very easy to get ganks off with those two. You've got slows, you've got stuns, you've got just massive damage output as well. Even from sort of level 2, you can do a massive amount.
And I didn't realise quite how much damage the shrapnel would be doing in mid lane. Living For really can't go anywhere near.
Absolutely, I mean, because he's getting a fair amount of the last hits just from the shrapnel alone, which is really just completely putting Shadow Fiend, Living For rather, out of chance of getting money. He is within experience range, but I mean that's not enough really. As a Shadow Fiend, you do need the money.
I just realised that we may be having some other audio problems. Let's see. Are we talking now? We are. And we are not when we're not speaking. Good. Okay. Hello, people who are watching through Dota TV. I do apologise. You couldn't hear us before.
But rest assured, the analysis was fantastic.
Yeah, clearly the greatest pair of casters
Absolutely.
that Surrey has ever seen. That isn't actually that difficult. But hey. Zoom is being pinged out on the bottom lane.
So, I mean, in terms of item pickups, what are you thinking that we're going to see as first items from various people, obviously after the bottles from... So Zoom, for instance, what do you think he's going to go for? Because he went straight to Ags last time, which was, as we discussed, was an interesting move that I don't think was necessarily the right one. I mean, are you thinking that Blade Mail will be the right choice this time? Maybe drums? Or?
I think against the Lifestealer, you probably don't want to... Like, the Blade Mail isn't as effective.
Obviously with the Rage.
A Force Staff may be more appreciated, especially with the Skywrath also in this game.
Radiant's middle
Initiation
tower
bomb,
is
and
under
that's not
attack.
happening. It's probably worth noting that Pain is level 1 and B
Radiant's
hasn't been
middle tower
dressing
is
Zoom
under
out lane
attack.
simply because he can't. And the supports actually being that low level.
It's a bit of a detriment, really. I mean, Vengeful is 3, but Pain being level 1, I mean, really, you do want to get... you really do want to get levels in, obviously, at your Q and your W as Skywrath, because that they pair very well together for harassment, and actually roaming at level 1, I mean, especially when you're almost 7 minutes in, isn't, it's not going to do enough at this point.
Yeah, and Zoom is level 6, Longlive is nearly level 6, but he is going to take some battery assault damage, but Phase Boot's being used. Longlive taking a lot of damage here. It's going to juke around the trees. Supports are going to come in. He's safe now, but that's a lot of damage that came out right there.
Absolutely, and if the Radiant Creep Wave hadn't been there, that might have been a kill, but obviously some of the battery assault gets deflected onto the creeps, which is a shame.
Rav doesn't seem to have much.
No, I mean 37 last hits at 7 minutes is pretty commendable, mind you. I mean, it's not fantastic, but obviously you want to try and aim for roughly the ballpark of about 50 around 10 minutes. Ideally more, but that's sort of if the opponent is denying well, then that's fairly achievable.
On the mid lane, Shadow Fiend has been catching up on last hits, presumably because he's had the opportunity and the damage. He now has a stack to raise. He's going to clear that out nice and quick, and that's a lot of gold going his way, and well in time for the creeps to respawn.
No, that's very well timed. Obviously, one of the good things, especially about being on the Radiant as Shadow Fiend, is the quick access to the creeps, which you can just raise farm very, very easily, which is why I'd say it's very much a Radiant favourable hero.
Yeah. Hussein, moving about, is only level 2. But, yeah, he's getting vision up, he's making things easier for his team. And another smoke being used. Is that third smoke or
I think
fourth?
that is the third, I believe. And oh my goodness, we missed some action.
I do
But a
apologise.
first blood from the Phantom Assassin is going to put the Dire in a very favourable position. I mean, getting first blood on your carry.
But
this early
smoke
on.
rotation, 3 heroes. Rev may be in
attack.
big trouble here. He's been slowed. He is going to blink strike, but that means he's just in range for razors.
And that could quite possibly be a double kill. Although,
Yeah, he turned around to dagger. That's maybe enough. Patty, go turn around. Assassinate coming out. Yeah, Ligoku gonna go down.
Pick them off.
And he immediately goes invis.
I mean, I would say that's a pretty favourable trade for Dire.
I would say that not losing your carry to a smoke gank is fairly important. I mean, it's their third smoke this game.
Absolutely, and one thing is that obviously the amount of smoke ganks, but I mean, up until then, no kills from it. And one thing that up to the Dire do have going for them is that their supports, even when Line has been roaming, is still getting experience, still doing other things. Whereas the roaming supports that we've seen on the Radiant team in Skywrath and in Venge have been fairly unsuccessful despite the smoke ganks. Well, lack of ganks, but still the use of smoke.
Yeah, and we've just had a stack pinged out by Zoom, and Zoom is going to initiate on Living For. He is almost certainly dead. He's in battery assault range, and the slow will come out, but it doesn't matter. Kill goes, and Pain now in big trouble.
And the
Assassinate going to come
Assassinate's
out,
gonna get him.
and not quite surviving on.
I think that was 2 HP.
That must have been 1 or 2 HP.
My goodness.
Flare being thrown out. Is it going to be a kill?
It must be. Come on.
Nope, miss. Tree
that's-
over here.
That was
And Clockwork will go down to the Goku and Long Live the Chase.
I mean, he was
chasing
fairly
the
low.
Clockwork, and he had no battery assault.
No, and the other thing I think Clockwork really needs to pick up is phase boots. That would have made he might have even secured the Skywrath if he had phase boots at this point.
Yeah. Also, the Tidehunter was wandering around during that fight very low, well within assassinate range.
No, absolutely.
Unlike,
Radiant's top tower is
I mean,
under attack.
would you say that? I mean, potentially the Tidehunter might have been a better target for the assassinate. I mean, would that have finished him off? Was it enough damage? Was he low enough? I believe. Is it 225?
The red mist
level 1
spreads
assassinate?
at
Like,
Radiant's
honestly,
middle
Tidehunter
tower.
definitely was in range.
Mm.
What do you think of this Necrophos support? I realise that we
Radiant's
haven't
top
looked
tower
at
is
top
under
lane much,
attack.
but how...
Dire's bottom tower
What are
is
your thoughts?
taking
I mean,
Radiant's top
it's
tower
not
has
unheard of,
fallen.
and it's not a terrible
Tend to
choice.
your wounded,
But
or put them Dire's bottom
I don't know. I'm not
tower
entirely
is
sure. I mean,
under
it's
attack.
a leveling Heartstopper aura when you're acting as a support. I'd say is I mean, that's going to push the lane considerably.
Not
I mean, that's...
all that much. Consider that...
Radiant's middle tower is under
That's true.
attack.
I mean, I feel like Necrophos support. Not a great. I mean, not a great choice. I'd say Necrophos really
Radiant's
position 2
middle
would be
tower is
ideal.
under attack.
Living For has been spotted out. Assassinate coming out. That'll be nice and simple. Zoom can wander off.
I've got the classic Clockwork tankiness. I mean, even without any real items there, you know, 1000 HP at level A, he can make those kind of moves quite easily and get away with it, relatively risk-free. So we haven't seen any items on the sniper, I mean, apart from a Ring of a Killer. But he's got 70 gold. I mean, what are you expecting he's going to spend that on?
I've seen some uses of Blink, but possibly Maelstrom, Scardy. I wouldn't be massively surprised by any of them.
I was saying, because Scardy makes sense, because if he was buying a Maelstrom, he could have easily bought the Mythal Hammer by this point.
Another smoke.
How many smokes do these people need?
A Shadow Blade coming out on the Shadow Fiend.
And that's really part of the course on the Shadow Fiend. I mean, it's a fairly standard
Last
pickup.
game we didn't see it.
That is true. He went straight into BKB, then Scardy, I believe.
spree.
But
Oh, Sniper managing to get a kill. Zoom initiating and essentially getting a free kill there.
Radiant's middle tower
and Zoom is
under
good, just
attack.
lingering
We
on
we
medium
now
camps.
have a DD Sniper beating away at the Shadow Fiend,
goodness,
but
and-
then Patty is going to be attacked, but it doesn't matter. Armlet is on the Lifestealer, but
I mean, until Lifestealer gets the Skull Basher, that's I mean, he just can't stop Sniper like that. There's no reliable stun
Ran
on a
is
Lifestealer.
6. Is worth noting, so Reaper Scythe now to go through the Lifestealer's BKB, I guess that may have been one of the major reasons for the pickup.
That is true. That is true. And obviously, I mean, Necros is one of those heroes where it's just generally a good person to have on the team. Obviously, the 30-second extra respawn time, especially in the late game, is always useful. It gives you an advantage that other heroes don't have that kind of mechanic.
Yep. Patty not going to quite... we will be seeing a Maelstrom coming out on the Sniper. He is 50 gold away, I think. Is that right?
Yeah, 700 for the recipe, I think.
It was changed twice, I remember.
It was 600 up until 6.82 or 6.81, I
Oh
believe.
yes, and it was Mjolnir that was also jumped up a bit.
Yes, yeah, and obviously because it was incredibly popular, especially in TI4. Everyone, the world and his mum, was picking up a Maelstrom.
And with good reason.
Yeah, and absolutely,
The
it's a
item
very
is
strong
powerful.
item. I mean, the attack speed, the damage, it's very reliable, and it's also very cheap. I mean, it's 2,800, I believe, in total. Yes, 2,800, and that's honestly pretty cheap for what the item's worth. I mean, it's got good stats, and it's just reliable, and it builds into obviously a better item late game, which is very reliable. Even provides defensive bonuses with the shield.
I think we may be seeing a push mid.
Radiant's
No, yes,
middle
no.
tower is under attack.
No, they're going back off behind tower because they can't see anyone. And Sensible That is. Payne does have an Invisory. Is now level 4. I mean, you know.
He's making his way up the levels, but level 4 at 15 minutes is...
is almost certainly going to go on Paddy? No? They're not going to use that Invis for the initiation. I mean, that's possibly a mistake.
Although obviously Kingston, I mean, they couldn't have seen that obviously Lion and Clockwork were also in the woods around mid lane there, but that would have definitely stopped a gank on Sniper, I would say.
Yeah, and Rev is going BKB essentially first.
I mean, against this team lineup, it makes sense. I mean, against the Skywrath alone, I'd say BKB first item is pretty reliable, but obviously you've got the Razors. I mean, maybe after Battle Fury.
Or, I don't know, Phase Drums is fairly popular.
Yeah.
Phase Aquila is an Agi hero at the moment.
No,
Phase Aquila Mom,
yeah.
you know, the standard farming builds this meta.
No, absolutely. I mean, because I suppose anything like an Aquila or Drums, or even a Battle Fury, they're just very well-rounded kind of items. They give you decent regeneration, and obviously apart from the Battle Fury, they're all stats up. So it's just it's a nice kind of all-rounder, which you really need on PA, who is, in the early game, incredibly squishy, and the damage output doesn't really matter until later on. We do see dusts on the Clockwork, which makes sense considering the amount of smoke that we've seen, and obviously the Shadow Blade now being on Shadow Fiend, although I'm not entirely sure whether the Dire team have seen that, but it's a fairly
I presume if they've bought Dust, they've seen the Shadow.
it would make sense.
And I guess another reason for the Shadow Blade I haven't realised until now, you've got a Lifestealer taxi service.
Yeah, absolutely. It's the surprise infest. You expect no hero, suddenly you get 2.
And I imagine Invis Requiem into Lifestealer. We're going to see Skywrath go down, Zoom managing to catch that out, Cogs keeping away support, but Ran and Zoom don't know that there's Lifestealer in there. Shadowblade used, Dust coming out, Ravage being used, Zoom goes down, Master also goes down, Nigoku taking a lot of damage, but Long Live managing to just go ham until Reaper Scythe just straight up stops him.
Absolutely, and I mean, honestly, that was a fairly hectic team fight. I feel like it was fairly poorly coordinated on both sides. At various points, Venge and Shadowfiend went forwards and then backwards, and honestly, just a lack of consistency in communication, I think, was very, very much present in the Kingston team.
I very much agree, yeah. And it allows for a tier 1. I very much doubt that this won't go
no, I mean, absolutely, obviously, it's not a massive deal to lose your tier 1, but the sense of momentum that you get there is you know, is certainly tangible, and obviously a 5,000 experience and net worth lead in favour of the Dire. Really, Surrey are looking pretty strong at this point.
Yep. Zoom in the middle of 3 heroes, possibly going a little ham.
Potentially, although Ran is now there for support.
Without
looks like
Reaper Scythe.
That is true, without Reaper Scythe. And how far? You think he's fairly near to his 4 staff? Yeah, it's just about 50 gold away. And that will be very useful,
and
just a general support item.
It's worth noting that Zoom doesn't really have any first item components.
No. I mean, in terms of score, he's running 2, 3, 4, which it's not fantastic. But, I mean, it certainly does mean that he hasn't accelerated like he did in the last game, straight into the Ags.
And Shadowfiend has been called out. Battery Assault. This is likely to be a kill. Assassinate as well, guaranteed.
Yeah.
Boom.
And the Shadow Blade doesn't even matter. I mean, I have to say, Zoom has been consistently fantastic with each of his hooks. He's very good at landing them.
Yeah. Zoom is a rather good Clockwork in general. Rev, with his BKB, what do you think he'll progress to next?
But having got BKB and Helm, I would say this is at the point where you want to get a mid to late game item. Because
Scardy or something?
Yeah, potentially a Scardu. I mean, maybe that would be too much tankability. I mean, I think maybe a more damaging item, a Skull Basher at this point wouldn't be a terrible idea.
Yep, Skull Basher, maybe into an Abyssal wouldn't be.
No, absolutely. You've got fantastic damage there. I'd say it's too late for something like a Battle Fury, really, to be too viable. Obviously, Drums and Aquila well past that stage, really, as well. I mean, I don't know. I'd say probably a strong damaging item.
It's worth noting that neither team really has any vision of each other. I mean, Patty has been spotted out by this ward, but otherwise, this ancient stack is essentially invisible.
No, absolutely, and I feel like warding, especially from the die team, has been relatively weak. Although, I mean, in terms of, you know, supports, obviously, I mean, would you say Necrophos position 4, Lion position 5? I mean, because Necrophos has very much spent a lot of time just in top lane with the PA, not doing a massive amount. Then obviously rotating for the kills, but not spending much time warding, certainly.
Yeah, and Phantom Assassin is nearly finished with this stack. It took a lot out of her.
Yeah, absolutely. It was because she actually had to go back, and I think she got help from another hero.
Invis rune on Master.
And obviously with the Ravage ready, this could be devastating if it's pulled off well.
And Invis Lifestealer. This is nice and simple. Easy kills. Ran needs to escape. Does get out. Open wounds. Has been maxed.
And obviously that's ending a wicked 6 streak on Sniper, and that's going in the way of Shadow Fiend, which is phenomenal. Should put him in a great advantage. And the defensive cogs there will obviously stop them from pursuing him, except the Blink Dagger could lead to something, although obviously no interrupt for the TP there.
Nice and simple. Getting out there.
And Hyperstone on the Lifestealer.
AC, how are you feeling?
I mean, yeah, if you obviously, you know, Mjolnir isn't a terrible item on. He's picked up 2 pieces of mail. It's definitely an AC.
Yeah.
And I have to say it's always a solid item on Lifestealer, because the attack speed bonus, especially if you use that and Rage, hitting incredibly fast. And when I'd expect a Basher would be useful, obviously, because if you're hitting more, the odds of you getting a bash is greater. So hopefully he'll be getting a basher at some point.
Pistol Blade is almost like
it's the go-to item on a Lifestealer. You can't really build a Lifestealer without one. I mean, Armlet, I'd say, is the very much a must-have on Lifestealer. Other than that, it's got to be a basher.
Like, if you look at the hero items are known for, I'd say nowadays Abyssal Blade is Lifestealers.
Yes.
Like, and a Lifestealer will almost certainly always build Abyssal Blade. And I'd say Armlet nowadays is Elk's item.
Yeah. No, I
like there are builds of Lifestealer that don't use Armlet. For instance, the race car build, which was fairly popular before Lifestealer kind of disappeared from the
Yeah, I was going to say, because obviously, I mean, I think it was around TI3 time, Lifestealer was very, very popular. Havos Lifestealer was very well known. Then, yeah, Loader as well. I'd say, obviously, Havos slow decline into mediocrity, as we see him these days. But, I mean, I don't know. Yes, I was going to say, fairly rapid decline to mediocrity, actually. Or perhaps less than mediocrity. Although that said, the Lifestealer that we got in this game, doing well.
Shots fired.
I mean, I hope Havos doesn't take it too personally. I'm sure he absolutely cares about my opinion of his gameplay.
We're going to see all 5 going in. Zoom getting the hook. Assassinate coming out. Nice and simple. A lot of damage though. Requiem. Pretty effective. 4-staff sliding crit on from RAP Rev. Slide.
That was phenomenal. And I have to say, Zoom was getting very low, but the amount of times we've just seen hookshot into Assassinate, obviously, the hookshot provides the visibility, locks them down. Sniper can safely assassinate with vision there. Obviously, the amount of range on Assassinate is absolutely absurd.
And it's completely locking down the Shadow Blade. Genuinely, it's such a good combination.
I mean, I believe that's picked up the Shadow Fiend 3 times.
Shana, ooh, did you see that at the beginning of the animation?
I was going to say, because I saw him raise his staff for a Reaper Scythe there, and that was very, very close.
that would have been a...
It would have been a disaster for Lifestealer.
But instead, we're going to see a Roche.
And it's always great fun
Was
to
that
see...
Blink? No. 4-star up.
Oh, fair enough. I was going to say, because Roche becoming a fish is always
yeah,
amusing. It was a basher, which, I mean, it makes sense, really.
And 4-star.
4-star, you were right. That was early prediction of a 4-star on Clockwork, so well done there. And I feel like that's a pretty solid choice. We have seen Clockwork get fairly low, and ultimately, whilst he was in the last game playing more of a solo role, there's a lot more team fighting going on in this game, and a 4-star really helps with that. The mobility will be useful, and the escape as well, just, you know, getting about there. The mobility on the Dire team has been pretty impressive at this point, and it's always good.
Do you think this club's going to turn into a BKB?
Sorry,
I missed the Mithril Hammer. Of course it's a BKB. Sorry.
Yeah. I mean, that said, obviously, we now know it is, but if you were getting an O-Club, Sanjin Yasha isn't a terrible item on Shadow Fiend. Just things that provide multiple stats up are generally good on Shadow Fiend, because strength, as well as agility, are useful for him.
Tower is under attack.
And it looks like she's dominated a creep to get the frost armor, which is a fairly reasonable choice. And team fights that's
Frost
good.
armor. It's 8 armor.
Yeah, that's nothing to be sniffed at by any
And
means.
a slow on the team with lots of right clickers.
Yeah.
I'm sure Lifestealer does not appreciate.
Certainly.
Ravage is up, it's worth noting.
And obviously the Aegis.
But
Oh.
being pinged out and also Blink was forced on cooldown. It looks like using shrapnel to try and find the Tidehunter and stop Blink. And
You got
perfect use.
Yeah, you've got to obviously. I mean, both Clockwork and Sniper have got the long range sort of tracking devices, which obviously, like you said, disabled the blink, which meant that they just couldn't stop them taking that tower. There's no way he could blink it. I mean, if he walked in and ravaged, he would just die. There's nothing you can follow that with.
Wizard does have a DD. If
And
he wishes to do something.
He has finished his assault crows as well, so that's always good.
But I think against 4 heroes, 5 heroes, probably looking to just sit in base whilst the team gathers.
Absolutely. I mean, looking at the network, you can easily see that the Dire are just well ahead of the Radiant.
And again, Blink on cooldown, no. But we have Blink, Ravage, Invis, Shadow Fiend. Rev needs to be on point with his BKB. Does not get it, so we're going to see a lot of damage coming out. Rev does manage to avoid the Mystic Flare. Rev going ham against Living. Reaper's Scythe being used, gets the kill on Tidehunter. Aegis being popped. Long live. Using Armlet to great effect, just going to go ham. It's worth noting that if he doubles off, he will die to the Necro Aura, as he does.
I have to say, yeah, Necrophos is one of those heroes. It's one of his quirks. He's very good against Armlet heroes. Again, you see that on Chaos Knight as well, that, you know, just poorly timed toggle will just kill you, because obviously when you go down to 1 HP, it just ticks him down.
And, yeah, 3 for 2, cores on both sides, but 1 extra core. Living 4 being the only major core left alive at the end of that fight.
I honestly feel like the main problem there was just the PA stayed for too long.
Yeah.
Honestly, just retreating at that point, doing a fair bit of damage to the tower. The creeps were pushing it as it was. I mean, they were going to get it down relatively low, and it was just greed, I think, honestly. Obviously, Surrey are ahead, but I don't think they can afford to play necessarily quite like that.
They needed a ward up here.
Yeah, I think especially, I mean, obviously there is a fair amount of warding on the Dire side now, which is good, but that warding is necessary if you want to be as aggressive as they are. And obviously they spent a lot of time in the jungle, especially around sort of the larger camps in the west, obviously just picking off various heroes. But, you know, I think certainly consistent visibility is needed to play as riskily as Surrey are.
If we look at our Earth and XP, we see...
It is levelling out a little bit in XP.
Yeah, and this happened last game as well, and we saw the results. Kingston won from that. So,
although that said, I would say that Surrey's lineup last game was a lot more kind of mid-game centric, whereas obviously with a PA and a Sniper you can afford to go into the late game. The good thing is Sniper can work mid and late. PA is pretty much exclusively late. But they, unlike last time, I mean, Slardar was never going to be a good enough carry. I think it was just I wouldn't say it was GG from the pick, but it was certainly biased. It was certainly, you know, leaning towards Kingston's victory at that point.
it was early win, no win.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And I think that ultimately, you know, the fact that it's balancing out isn't obviously great for Surrey, but they could certainly pull it back and, you know, have a dominant lead just because of the nature of the heroes. I think honestly the draft from both teams is very strong, but I think certainly Surrey's is much better than their last games.
It's interesting that we're complementing a... Oh, Ravage being used, Mystic Flare catching out Rev, he doesn't manage to BKB in time. Gussie, Hussein go down as well, lots of damage. Lifestealer managing to pick off Clockwork. Patty and Ran essentially being left alone on to fight. Ran will manage to catch out Master, but will go down almost certainly. No, he manages to survive. Assassinate will come out, kill the Skywrath Mage, and 3 people retreating on low health for the Radiant, and Patty is going to right click, manage to get the kill, blinks forward, gets another kill on the Venge, and the Invis of Living 4 is going to keep him alive, but actually that Sniper suddenly looking terrifying.
Getting those 2 kills just at the end of it there, I mean that showed the worth of Blink Dagger on Sniper, and again, mobility is key for the Dire team. For Surrey, they really need that level of mobility, and for the most part they've got it. Obviously we talked about the 4-staff on Clockwork, and with a Blink on Sniper they can just pick people down easily and really follow them up.
Yep, and this will almost certainly transition into a tower. Some lines being drawn by the Lifestealer, saying that they shouldn't have gone past this line.
I was going to say, I assume that was basically saying don't dive past the tier 2. I mean, especially considering they haven't even taken the mid tier 1. That was fairly unsafe.
Noticed that. You're quite right. That was a 2-tower dive.
And I mean, at the best of times, that's a risky move. But going that deep in, when I think all heroes were alive at that point on both teams, that's just not a safe move. And where are they going to escape to? Especially with heroes as mobile as Blink Sniper. PA's obviously got her Blink and Clockwork with this hookshot and 4-staff. That just wasn't safe.
What do you feel this ultimate orb is going to transition to? Manta or Skadi or?
I would say probably Skadi. If it was going for Manta, I would predict he would build a Yasha first. And obviously Skadi works
Another
nicely.
ultimate orb.
Yeah, that'll be it. And obviously that works very nicely with his Mjolnir, obviously, because that only counts as unique attack modifier when it procs. So he can keep the Skadi, the slow, consistently at any time other than that, and obviously it lasts longer than just one hit, so that should be an excellent pickup for him.
Ran has 2 pieces of an Aghanim Scepter.
I mean, one thing that I would say is, obviously, at this point in the game, for Sniper, it's often a choice between Desolator and Skadi as your primary unique attack modifier. And I think, honestly, that Skadi is the right choice, because there is a lot of damage potential on the on Kingston's side, and having the extra survivability that you do get from Skadi, which I believe gives the second most health after Heart to Rask, it's just a very smart pickup.
Tidehunter, Master, currently sitting at level 9. Currently below everyone else in the game at 31 minutes.
And considering, I mean, he wasn't even one of the roam supports. Was he the offlane? Was he?
Haste, Shadow Fiend, looking for Roche, and they're not going to find it. And we don't know when.
Yeah, I mean, at some point in, I don't know, 3 minutes, within the next 3 minutes. But I have to say, yeah, Tidehunter being that low level, I mean, obviously...
And Zoom's going to walk in and do exactly the same.
And be equally disappointed. But the one thing I would say for the Tidehunter is obviously he's pretty much a one-trick pony, really. He's just Ravage or nothing. And a level 1 Ravage obviously doesn't do a massive amount of damage, but it's still a solid ultimate, really. And him not having levels isn't ideal, but it's not necessarily disastrous, and he still has a fair amount of utility. I mean, I wouldn't write him off as a hero just because he's an incredibly low level.
And everyone's gathering around mid. It looks like people are paying attention to whether we're going to be seeing a Roche fight. And smoke being used, Ram sneaking forward. Zoom gets the hook shot on, gonna be nuked straight into the floor. And honestly, incredibly bad hook, honestly, into so many people. BKB being used, living for sex, managed to get lots of right click off, but Patty is just going to try and right click people down. But long live, just going ham. He does go down, but he was essentially left unchecked most of that fight. Rev straight up died to him.
Yeah, I mean, obviously that's... I mean, wasn't it?
And that shouldn't be happening.
No, absolutely, and that was an ambitious hook. I mean, into 3 people right next to each other, and then a 4th person very nearby. I mean, more than a bold move, I would say that was just a plain stupid move, really.
Yeah.
But obviously, I mean, Sniper cleared up very well there, and did manage to get a couple of kills. I believe they were both on Sniper, but regardless, he certainly contributed very actively, and he has completed his Skadi now, which is a very big deal for the Dire team in general. And a bit of dewarding going on here, done by the Dire, which is, very smart move. It's always a good idea to deward, because as little, if you can surprise them as much as possible, especially with these mobile heroes like we talked about, then, yeah, the more surprise, the better, really.
And this Ogre Frost Mage, I think, actually doing quite a lot of work this game.
No, absolutely. I mean, it's one of those... I'd be tempted to usually pick the Wolf as sort of your usual sort of...
damage.
Just for the extra damage, really, as your usual kind of minion of choice. But no, that is... The Frost Mage is doing very well. And I think one thing...
counteracts the aura and prevents Lifestealer from killing you quite so fast.
No, absolutely. And as aggressive as Surrey have been, they've picked up, for the most part, defensive items, but in order to play offensively. And it's basically given them a further level of security they wouldn't have necessarily had otherwise.
Roche has been found, and they dewarded before Roche was up. So this is unknown.
Yeah, I mean,
but that doesn't mean that the Radiant don't know what's going on.
Although that said, I mean, they're all sort of hanging about mid, not doing a massive amount. I mean, we've got Tidehunter clearing the Ancients, and Yeah, I mean, this rush.
Tidehunter is now 11, so in the last 3 minutes he's picked up 2 levels.
And he's picked up an Oblivion Staff as well, so he is going to be going for that Refresher. I mean, unless he's going for an Orchid, which is seriously down. That would be a terrible idea. But the obviously Ravage, Refresher, Ravage is an excellent move. And obviously,
I don't think we'll be seeing that for another 20 minutes.
no, absolutely. I mean, if he does manage to get that, then kudos to him. But I seriously doubt he'll get the level of farm that he needs.
Some vision being used to try and spot out what's going on, but
the thing is, would you say it's even worth building the Oblivion Staff, considering the fact that he's probably not going to finish it as a Refresher? Wouldn't the farm be better suited just going to someone else? If he just maybe, and he's got a Blink Dagger, if he just bought, I don't know, more wards, maybe a 4-staff, and just sort of let the farm go to other characters, do you reckon that would be a better choice?
Particularly a 4-staff. In this game, you've got the Clockwork, you want to escape those cogs, you've got a Sniper who you need to move someone closer to. In a lot of ways, I just think that they're somewhat lacking.
Yeah, absolutely. And we do see another smoke on the Skywrath. They are, for the most part, bunched together apart from Tidehunter, so maybe they will be doing something a little bit special with the smoke there. We can only hope so. I mean, I have to say, they've done their smokes well, it's just nothing has come of it, for the most part.
Yeah, and almost certainly we're going to see an Abyssal coming out here.
Yeah.
Yeah, and suddenly...
and suddenly damage, really.
Yeah.
And the lockdown as well, obviously, from the active.
Looking at 1,000 damage crits all of a sudden, and people being unhappy. Initiation. Ravage comes out. Ran is going to go down almost immediately. Hussein taking way too much damage, and Patty does not manage to get out. That's 3 down, and all to the Shadow Fiend.
Yeah.
Radiant's middle tower
Messy
is
fight.
under attack.
And just no good.
Absolutely. I mean, it's one of those fights that really was just a poor move, really. I mean, so I mean, honestly, I think Surrey overextended. Again, I taking it a little bit too risky, really. I mean, obviously, even though they're in the lead, and this obviously is definitely a tier 1, potentially going into a tier 2. But I have to say, this is, I mean, they've only taken 1 tower so far, Kings, which is, well, slow to say the least at 37 minutes in the game.
Yeah. 2 towers. Nearly.
Dire's middle tower is under attack.
Okay. And, you know, this game's gone on to
If Dire's
37
middle
minutes.
tower was
we
worth
weren't
a
exactly
damn,
expecting
it would still be standing.
50-minute game.
No, I have to say they're certainly, I'm not saying that they're longing it out, but it's been a far more balanced game than the last one. So, yeah.
Yeah. And I think, like, looking at the cores that we have, who do you think has the advantage?
Honestly, I'm still going to say that Surrey do.
Fair enough.
Do it with flair.
Okay.
But simply because I'd say the potency of PA, especially now she's got the Abyssal, and Sniper as well, I think it just it outdoes Kingston. Although that said, Kingston, their carry in lifesteal is far more survivable. He's both a tank and a carry. Whereas obviously PA and Sniper, I mean obviously PA's got her evasion, but Sniper for the most part is very squishy, which is why you need the mobility of a Blink Dagger.
Once Ran gets his Aghanim Scepter, which I would say is coming pretty soon,
Yeah.
especially if he gets all this
400 gold there.
how do you think that changes the game?
Honestly, not a massive amount. I think I haven't seen Reaper's Scythe used that effectively thus far, and I don't think that's necessarily going to change just because he gets an Aghanims.
Okay, fair enough. Especially with the BKBs coming out, it's not actually been doing that much damage. It's being used to hold someone in place.
Absolutely, it's a good disable, but in terms of damage, it's not doing a massive amount. And as I say, Shadow Fiend looks like he will be building towards an MKB, which is obviously a smart move against a PA. I mean, you just need to. One of the problems when facing a PA is that you just need an MKB if you want to have a chance of staying in the late game. And whilst it's a decent item on most heroes, it takes up one of your 6 slots.
Yeah, I mean, it's an efficient damage item, but when you want tank, when you want mobility, you don't want to be wasting time on a pure damage item.
That's the thing. I mean, MKB isn't terrible on Lifestealer, but it's certainly not one of his first go-to items. I mean, like you said, the Abyssal is really your go-to item, and after that you've got the AC. Potentially, I mean, you can build a heart. It's not a terrible idea, But yeah, I mean, MKB does work for Lifestealer, but it's not one of his first top-tier items.
Mm-hmm. Very much agreed. And anything you can do to disrupt your opponent's plans.
And it looks like they're going to
smoke's
smoke.
been used, but someone pulled it away, nice and safe. And they're going to hunt for him for a bit and be thoroughly disappointed.
And I mean, you know, Kingston, right to play cautious, right to TP out there, because I mean, the fact is that they've lost all visibility, they've lost all towers, you know, outside of base. I mean, they've got a few active wards, but honestly, I'd say the ward next to their ancients and the ward in the dire jungle a little bit pointless, really. They need to have more defensive wards, I'd say.
Yeah. And we're going to see Aegis timing out fairly soon. It looks like we may be rotating casters in a moment. So, thank you very much, Joe.
Yeah, thanks. Sorry, I'm afraid that I do have to leave. But it's been a really fun game to watch and cast. I mean, again, with the first game as well, I think both teams have played very well. And it's good to see a change of strategy from both teams. Honestly, they've both played differently in each game, shows they're very versatile players. So yeah, well, thank you, and yeah,
Thank you very much.
I'll see you soon.
We are going to see Dire gathering up under a Radiant ward, but otherwise, people seem to be staying at opposite sides of the map. And joining us now will be Praying Mango.
Hi guys, the quality of stream is just gonna
Dyer's
completely
bottom
drop
tower
now. I
is
apologize.
taking many wounds.
No worries.
Dyer's bottom tower is
Another tower
face down
going
in the
to the
dirt.
Radiant. Very
Dyer's
quiet.
bottom tower is under attack.
Not much is going
It
on.
feels like the calm before the storm. I feel like we've got there's rotations running around in jungle. I feel Dire just need to kind of win a fight and get some tower pushing going. Really, like that sniper can break base. He just needs to get there.
Yeah, and I think that's one of the major problems. Shadow Fiend as well. Also looking at one of the major problems that's been happening at the moment is the Dire currently have the advantage that there are no MKBs. This is not going to be true in a minute, and so they're wasting a lot of time that they could be using to press their advantage. If we look at what's been happening to the goal, it's leveled off. They aren't holding the advantage.
It's springing back towards the Radiant, and they need to make a move fairly soonish, or they're just going to be wasting any kind of momentum they've gained. Really.
I think, quite frankly, any momentum they had, it's been so long since anything's happened that it doesn't. We are getting a fairly short rotary spawn, so they will find out in a minute what's happening there. Significantly less in a minute, I would suspect. Probably on cooldown flares, nearly. No?
This will come in handy.
Apparently not.
Boom, there it
Radiant
goes.
are gathering up. Are we going to see yet another smoke, or are they just going to walk? They are not looking for Roche, they are looking for the enemy team.
They are out for blood. They want them. Does Skyrev got more cigarettes for his smoking habit, or is it still going well? No smokes. Just gonna
And
have
Shadow
Shadow
Fiend
Fiend
in
go.
the middle of the enemy team.
Surprise, boys.
Ravage being used, Zoom goes down almost instantly.
No.
Putty trying to do damage, is in trees, so will be able to just right click however he wants. But Rev goes down and two people die. Hussein managing to get the damage off, and an assassinate is going to come through. Isn't going to kill, but it's still fairly good. And Ran and Hussein smoked up to try and get bonus speed, but not enough.
Not enough. No, we saw some.
Shadow Fiend has been hexed up, and this is almost certainly a dead Shadow Fiend. Is going to manage to nuke out the line with right clicks though, but straight under a sentry ward.
There's no hope there. Like that's some some good shooting from Patty there. That's leveled that fight out nicely. Although that said, the PA did also go down, and that's not going to be fun.
Yeah, I think Lifestealers learned that Patty really hurts.
Yeah. It just needs that creep wave now.
Yep, yeah. as said, probably transitioning into tower. He can break base. He just needs to get there, and
Yeah.
especially with his haste rune, he is there.
Drop the shrapnel and get some shots in. Or no, he's going to back straight off. He's afraid of the Skyriff Lifestealer. As the others are up, I suppose, as well.
Yeah. PA, 3,000 gold in the bank. What would you go for now?
I'm not entirely sure, really. Like, does she want to tank up a bit more? Does she want to, she hits fairly hard already. I dare say butterfly. I suppose they get MKBs now, which doesn't really make that overly viable. I guess I think just staying alive is his priority right now. He hits
So
fairly hard.
Scardy?
Scardy, yeah. Well, he's got the attack modifier from the helm is the only thing.
They stack.
Do they stack? Okay, well, there you go. You learn something new every day. That's quite a nice little thing.
Roshanna the Dire
Could just go
never did give
screw
her
it
all.
after Ask.
Yeah, could do.
Aegis is a nice stuff to shoot.
Aegis cheese, worth noting. Suddenly, this PA isn't looking so squishy anymore, with essentially 3 lives.
Running the gourmet of tank.
Zoom has throughout this game been squish,
His plays have been solid, but his item progression has been
non-existent.
yeah. Like I'm pretty sure it's like bordering quantum
Dire's
uncertainty,
top
where if I don't
tower
look at it,
is
it might
under
be there.
attack.
But no, it's not there whenever you try and look at it.
Fair enough. It's worth
Much
noting
like
that they go
cordwood before
has a
Axe's
healing
axe,
tower for some
Dire's
reason.
top
That 46
tower
minutes out.
is under
Pro
attack.
plays. New meta.
Moving forward, probably going to lose his Lifestealer sometime soon. Lifestealer is progressing towards
Slowly but surely.
an abyssal.
Hey.
This surprises exactly no one.
Hooray.
We are going to see some initiation. Zoom goes in, Pain taking a lot of damage.
That
Going
was
to
a
be
very
forced
delayed
back,
cog.
and it's to force him backwards.
That's true.
It's a neat trick.
Yeah.
Rev and Zoom sitting right on top of each other. This BKB is only 7 seconds. I mean, that's better than a 4
It's
second.
not too bad.
But
Could be an 8 second.
yeah, it could be a 10 second.
Exactly.
And when there's Ravage about, do you send the PA up to the top and try and get something, or? I mean, they aren't pushing.
Well,
They aren't closing out the
you've
game.
got-
They aren't trying to.
They
The
can.
hooks are trying to be baited with the Shadow Fiend illusion, and they know.
I think they're just like, no,
like-
you're too squishy for this. Be gone.
Be gone, illusion.
I banish thee. They've got clockwork and they got the sniper. Like they have the flare shrapnel. They can just spot them out.
But they have Ravage.
Yeah, but you separate the sniper from your group.
Abyssal
Oh,
Blade
yeah.
being used. Rev goes down number
Ages
1.
straight out.
The Lion's
Reaper Scythe being used. Zoom goes down. Way too squish. Rev doing a lot of damage, but
It's not gonna be.
doesn't use his cheese. But Patty doing a heck of a lot of damage, having a buyback from the Lifestealer and the Shadow Fiend, but they're going straight on tower. But Patty's going to blink out. Ran, going to heal up Patty almost certainly, and this tower didn't take that much damage, but that forced 3 buybacks.
Check the gold rough. Like that's got to have a hit somewhere. Yeah.
Yeah.
That's a turnaround.
And that's also including some farm. I expect in a minute we'll see quite how sharp that change was. We didn't get fight. I didn't manage to click on fight recap. That would have told us exactly, but that was big.
That was a big play. And if that gold XP graph like starts dropping anymore, like I don't know, the economists over on the Radiant side are going to consider getting new jobs. But it's not happy for them right now.
Reaver comes out, so almost certainly a Satanic. I would have thought.
Definitely, that's gonna give it some much needed staying power. That life steal, the amount of damage he chucks out, he's just gonna be unkillable if he can avoid
Yep,
the
Satanic
lockdown.
arrived,
Yep.
and he's nearly got enough for buyback as well. You know, nice solid. Not giving a fuck.
Now is coward killing time.
What do you think Zoom should be picking up? Because clearly his current items are.
Like 10 minutes ago, I'd have said halberd, but I think like now with the BKB on the shadow, with the BKB being on the Shadow Fiend and the life stealer just not caring anymore, It's not so much like really. I think we need some more control items really. I feel that although if you try and bait out those BKBs, as soon as they come off, you just I don't know, like maybe a Yule Scepter or something. I don't know, just Sheepstick would be glorious, but is he gonna get the farm for it?
Well, don't know. He's not had basically any item progression for a while. If we look at net worth, he's only sitting on 9,600, and the Lion's even poorer.
Yeah.
No, actually, he doesn't seem that.
Lion has been doing solid utility throughout, whereas we have Zoom on the Clockwork being more of a
Throw hook, miss hook.
or hit hook, go into enemy team, become scrap metal.
Yeah, and it's worth noting that had he had the extra 500 range, he would have almost certainly managed to hit that hook. Patty is invisible on so many invisible people. Lifestealer is inside. Gussie living for.
Rev's got a jump or he's dead. Nope.
BKB used,
BKB.
but
That's
blocked.
gonna pop some shots.
Patty right clicking from the side.
Does not care.
Has BKB. Doesn't matter. Lifestealer is going to start right
That's a
clicking.
tank working hard.
Ram manages to lock down Lifestealer for a while, but it isn't enough. Long live, gonna take a lot of damage. Right clicks doing enough. Rev actually managing to get out of that. Triple kill.
Ultra kill. That's gonna be a wrap.
Ram
Oh
with
no!
the kill
Didn't get the
steals.
last one.
No rampage for Patty, but this is. Whew.
Kappa boys. This is
What
base
is
break.
buyback status at the moment?
Not happy, I'm assuming.
Buyback status.
Radiant's out for the count.
And so, are we going to see them go straight
This is
to
gonna-
T4s?
I-
And if so,
I wouldn't. I reckon they might do. I don't think it's possibly the best
no,
course of
they're
action.
going for another tier 3.
Get the towers down. That range rack's ain't gonna regen. This is smart move. This is smart plays by the Dire.
Yep.
Creeps will get that. They ain't spawning anytime soon. Venge can maybe do a little bit of wave clear, like Wave of Terror is a nice for getting annoying creeps, but it's not really kill a lot of them. This is going to be another melee rax. We could just be seeing them slowly choking them out. This is a big play.
Yep, and against Mega Creeps,
My god, item progression.
that halberd you mentioned, the Radiant really don't have much wave clear against. And we're gonna go for Rax number 3.
Screw it. Let's go for the hat trick.
Shadow Fiend has raises, but you need to hit all 3 to kill a Mega Creep wave.
Skyrath can wave clear, but that's a lot of his mana.
AC comes up as well. Patty gonna initiate, trying to kill off Master.
That is some sad
Goku
support.
also going to go down.
This is looking GG.
Yeah, GG called, and that means that this game has gone 1-1.
And because due to time constraints and various bureaucratic nonsense, it's now a draw.
Yep. So this means that Dota doesn't go to anyone.
No, so we confirm that both teams were equally terrible.
Yep. And first ever win for the team, apparently. So well played by both teams. Couple of fun games, Dota. This will be uploaded somewhere, somewhen. So if you are watching this and it's from a recording, thanks for downloading. And if you're watching on Dota TV, well, sorry, we're shit.
Yes, technology is a thing we have to look into.
And bye on Dota TV. And bye on OBS.